So welcome, February the 9th, 2022. Oh my goodness, time is moving. It's just speeding up, happening faster and faster by the second until we remember that time does not exist. So welcome, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here for another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And as always, I'm so grateful for those of you who do join, because this is one of my favorite things to do, is to give this knowledge away to the best of my ability to whoever wants to receive it. And today I'm super excited because this will be our last gathering in this space, because I'm moving on Friday. That's in 2 days. And I'll set up my office, and it's going to look exactly the same, because I'll put my board behind me so that I can add all of my charts and whatever, my posters back there. So it's going to look pretty much the same. Maybe there might be a slight different wall color, because that other color I think is a little lighter. But anyhow, it's going to be fun shifting and going to a new space, new possibilities. And I want to start off with sharing that I'm so grateful to the Course in Miracles for all it has taught me, because moving from a house is no different than moving from our old story. We have to be willing to declutter. We have to be willing to see thoughts that don't serve us anymore. We have to be willing to look at a dish like that I've been carrying around that was my grandmother's. Do I use it? Am I holding on to it just because it was my grandmother's? Yeah, that's the only reason. Is it practical? Is it time to release it to somebody that would use it? And sitting inside of that question of letting go of things because we have attachments to them, as within, so without. I have to question my thoughts, and then I have to question the thoughts that I have about stuff outside of me. And until it can be a total and complete release, no, I don't need to have you. Do I want to pack you and move you? If it's joyful, yes. If it's like, oh my goodness, I got to carry this thing, this weighs me down, then we let it go. It took me a very, very long time. I raised my family in a home. We lived there for almost 20 years. And that first move after I got divorced in 2014, that first move was very, very difficult, because I had to let go of my family home. The room my children grew up in, their baby furniture, their toys and dolls. And of course, I asked them all, do you want this stuff? And my daughter said she wanted a few things. My sons pretty much didn't want any of that. And then came the first purging from a big suburban house to move down into something much, much smaller. And that was a time when I began to realize, wow, I've come a long way on my journey. By then I had been 12 years in the journey, because it started in 2002 for me. And here we are, 2022. This is my 20-year celebration of the start of my questioning my belief system. And it's been an incredible process to look at what happens inside is what gets projected outside. A mind that is unattached and decluttered on the inside is a mind that is free, and therefore the outside is free of baggage, is free of things needing to be a certain way. Am I totally 100% there? No, not at all. Am I very close? Absolutely. I've had a piece of furniture that I've been carrying, moving around for a long time, my favorite piece of furniture, and I'm letting it go. I am absolutely letting it go. Now I am going to move it and go through that process of moving it and moving a collection that I've had for, I don't know, maybe 40 years. I started with my mom, of white porcelain. It's kind of like country pictures and just white porcelain. And I'm letting it go. But I am going to move it to the new house, because as a matter of fact, the new house happens to be within like a stone's throw from one of my favorite antique stores. And I actually, some of the pieces, maybe one or two that I have there, came from that store. So I am going to have a dealer come over and just look at everything and share what her thoughts are to just buy the whole lot because it's time to let it go. But that collection for a very long time meant a lot to me. It meant, it meant multiple things. And that's part of the process of purging, is you got to look at your attachments, look at why you have them. What do they mean? Because they're all leading us to an unraveling of this sense of separation that we have from God. And that sense of separation from God sends us into accumulation of people and stuff so that we don't feel so alone. So we clutter our surroundings with stuff, or we do the opposite. We think that we're separate and alone from God. Nobody loves us. So we do not want to attach to anything because we're going to keep it super simple. I cannot connect to people, so I'm not going to connect to stuff. Or I cannot connect to God, so I'm not going to connect to stuff. So the extremes of nothing, don't want anything, don't want to hold on to anything, or I got to hold on to this. Those extremes show us where our ego takes us. So when I began doing that questioning about these things, well, one thing is signified my love for this particular style of that piece of furniture. And I had to see that I had judgments for other pieces of furniture. I was like, this one's good, that one's not. And I had to get comfortable with letting go of the attachment to how it needed to look, which meant I had to let go of how I needed to look. And it was just, the specific way. So it was a very liberating process. And some of the pieces that I collected reminded me of a vacation I took, because I would buy things in just different places around the country, well, actually some around the world, on various trips that I just reminded me of those places. And I realized I don't need to have a thing sitting in my house that I got to carry around to remind me of a vacation that I took when it's in my mind. It's recorded. I can visit it in my mind. So it's just an incredible process. And one thing that I did discover is I was looking at what's this attachment. There was one piece that I got from my mom that she had purchased for me at a little antique shop, which was one of our favorite things to do together. I loved going antiquing with my mom. It was so much fun antiquing, flea markets. It didn't matter where it was, garage sale. We just loved spending time together, doing mindless stuff like that. And if something caught our eye, we would, it'd be something that we would get. So most of my birthday presents from her, or Christmas presents, were things that she would pick up, because I didn't like so much store-bought stuff. It just never really appealed to me, maybe because I grew up with my mom and I finding things that were just caught our eye and were fun and inexpensive. And anyhow, and I found a piece, one of those pieces she had given to me. And I thought, oh, is it time for me to let go of holding on just because somebody gave me something? Do I have to give it a special meaning? The Course in Miracles has taught me that anything that we consider special, we are attached to. We have an attachment to that thing. And letting go of it is letting go of specialness. And when everything becomes neutral, and you can be just as easily staying in a place that looks like this as one that looks like that, now you are the carrier of the peace inside of you. Peace is not coming from the place having to look this way, or the person having to look that way, or you having to look a certain way to feel good about yourself. Goodness comes through you no matter what. So this move is an exciting move for even more letting go, Doesn't mean I'm going to let go of everything, because I have a place. I need a bed. I need furniture. I need things like that. But the attachment is just lessening more and more and more. And it's really exciting. All right. So glad that you guys are here with us. I would love to hear from anybody who can share, how has the Course in Miracles impacted your life in the past week since we were together last time? And we spent a fair amount of time talking about continuing on the lesson 124. And today we're going to close up that lesson. But until then, I want to hear from you. How is the Course in Miracles impacting your life? And please just unmute yourself. Whoever wants to share. And if nobody shares, then I'll start on the lesson, and we will start with paragraph 7. Who wants to share? Specifically, the lesson we talked about last week, let me remember I am one with God. Have you remembered you are one with God? Have you realized how holy your mind is?
Yeah, I'd like to share.
Thank
This
you.
is Jody. Um, yeah, I mean, truthfully, that is what gives me peace, is remembering my right mind and remembering I'm one with God. And it was interesting because you shared, well, you shared it in our group, our Monday night group, but the channel for Jesus. And I was fascinated because, I've had some anxiety, but it relates to this lesson. I had some anxiety. I've had a lot of anxiety, and it was fascinating because what was shared in the video was about as we're waking up, the ego is just terrified that it's going away, and so that was super cool because um, we are not separate, and it's good to know that that peace lies just within, in the truth of who we are. So I'm delighted to learn that this is just part of the process of remembering and going back home.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for that share. It really is a very challenging thing for our mind, our human mind, conditioned human mind, to wrap itself around the fact that we are pure consciousness, which means we are just energy. And as energy, we are not this body. This body is a projected expression that we decided as infinite creative beings to use to have an experience of being separate. Now, if everybody that is born to humans, to parents who understand we're playing a game of separation, then we would use these bodies, these separate bodies, to co-create a happy dream, as the Course wants us to understand that we can. But to do that, we need to remember that we're not these bodies, that we're not just this. Because when we truly remember that what we are is this infinite energy, then we would be at peace with all that is. And there are so many teachings. I know that I followed some of those teachings and I have taught some of those things, that we're trying to become more peaceful. Well, you cannot become what you already are. It's like telling a dog, oh, let me train you to become a dog. You are a dog. I am peace. It's about accessing that which we are. And the only way to access what we are is to let go of the beliefs that contradict that, the beliefs of separation, of attachment. That's why until we are not attached to any stuff, we don't really fully get that we are not physical. And that's why death is such a great teacher, because until we lose that person that we thought was special, made us feel special, that we got our joy from them loving us, from them liking us, from them being in our lives, we typically don't get to experience the essence of our non-physicality. And whether it's a move and letting go of stuff, or a death and letting go of stuff, or a physical body, or the end of a financial system and letting go of our net worth being what determines our self-worth, letting go of a government and realizing that with its collapse, oh my God, who's going to keep me safe? All of those things have to fall apart for us to find out that we are not any of that. But at the same time, we are the substance of all of it. So what we're doing by letting go of attachments, we are claiming our energy back. We're pulling back our power. Instead of being on anything external, it comes back in here. And what's amazing, Jody, and for everybody, what's amazing is when we harness all that energy back from everything outside of us, for safety, for peace, for love, for worth, even for joy, anything that you think outside you need to make you happy. When we reclaim with absolute honesty and humility that I am the source of all of that because I am one with God, then we can start over. Then we get back into the flow with God, which we've been out of for so long. And we got to become like little children who were in the flow. We got to come back. We, as little children, we are toddlers when we are in the flow, 2, 3, 4 years old in the flow. Then we descend into the density of the eagle. As we ascend, we've got to become like a little child and reclaim that ability to flow with what is and be like a 2, 3, 4 year old, but this time consciously. So we're mindful of what's happening and not mindless operating like a 2 or 3 year old down here in reaction and trying to hold everybody else responsible for our happiness, our joy, our worth, and our safety. So as we ascend, we are literally going to move back into flow. And what does God tell us over and over? Well, Jesus is telling us that God wants for us in A Course in Miracles that we be happy, that we understand that our mind creates everything. Our mind projects what we believe we deserve. And because we've been trained into lack of worth, and we got to accumulate to have an idea, a sense of worth, we need to reclaim our inner worth, independent of anything external. And when we reclaim that, our ability to manifest instantly will be absolutely completely activated, but we cannot manifest instantly until we are desiring to manifest from love. Because if we let people manifest instantly who are down here, and many of them are able to manifest rather instantly because they have the power and the money, not because they're using their creative power to manifest a war instantly, but because they're using their power and money to manifest the killing of others instantly because they're trying to accumulate more. When our mind has been cleaned up of attachments and we return to an inner, humble and joyful and truly honest sense of worth, we go back into the flow. And then what happens is, you're one with all that is. You're one with God. You're one with every brother and sister. You're one with the mountains, with the planet, with the ocean. You're not going to want to do anything to cause harm to anything because it is you. You don't pollute it. You don't destroy it. You don't abuse it. So we've got to get our mind cleaned up of the misinformation so our heart can get back to like when we were a little child, activate from a joyful place, a desire to play, to make mud pies, to play pretend. One day we want to be a doctor. Oh, what would it be like to be a doctor today? And you will be able to manifest the opportunity to be in service with the doctors and go help a village if that's what you feel like it. Or you want to feel like, what would it be like to dress up and be, rich beyond measure? You will do it, but you won't need to hoard it. You'll want to use it and share it. So we have to see how we descended, then go through the process of ascension, because the same power that we used, us, the creative children of God, created the process of descending in separation. We are still, the dog is still the dog, no matter what we try to train it to become. We are still a manifestation and expression of God, no matter what we attempt to become. When we acknowledge that we're that, humbly, honestly, with peace and joy and a desire to share the greater good with all, there will be absolutely nothing more delicious than really, truly returning us to heaven on earth, where nobody's going to be competing with anybody. Why? Because everybody can manifest whenever they want. There will be no competition. There'll be an end. Actually, there's going to be an end to money. You don't need money if you use your mind to manifest what you want. You're thirsty, boom. What do you want to drink? You want a glass of champagne in your hand? There it is. Because it will be about the experience in the moment, not about accumulation to make us feel like we are safe. We will be safe in ourselves. And from there, we express, yes.
Can I just add something or say something? You talked a little bit about attachment and letting go of things as you move. And so again, attachment being ego, and it's our separate self, right? And so there's that, and there's also the seek and never find, that part of us that looks outside of us. It's like when I'm in the ego, I'm like on the rat on the hamster wheel. You're just never going to find who you are. It's not outside of ourselves. So it's whether it's the attachment or the seek and never find. It's that wheel that never ends. Here's what I want to ask you. If I'm done seeking, and I'm done seeking, because that's of the ego, and I've let go, and I'm letting go, and I'm doing the purification of, just letting go of everything. My question is, um, what if I don't move? Like literally, I have days where I'm like, oh, I just want to go look at that, or I want to go um, redo my piece of furniture I'm working on. Um, or just I get into this creative space, and then I'm like, oh shit, I think I need to pay bills, and I'm broke. Not broke, don't have earthly money. So it's like that balance is just, I'm not moved. And so my ego jumps in to say, you need to be moving. But the soul, my right mind, is saying nothing.
Yeah. That's a very beautiful and actually a very profound question that can only be asked by one who is in that place of entering the void or being in the void, because we are going to have to go through a process of a willingness to accept that we don't know what anything is for. And then we begin to give permission to God. What would you have me do? And that's where real trust gets cultivated. Is what brings you joy, is what's most exciting to just redo your furniture. If that's the most exciting thing, then that's the place that you must be in that moment and allow inspiration to guide you. Because in this world where we do need to pay rent, and we do have, bills to pay, things that are of the world, we are going to be inspired into the next right action that's appropriate for us. But we have to learn to shift gears and do that through inspiration from God. The ego has been conditioned. You got to work hard and go get a job, and you're going to give so many hours and get money. I know, I'm playing in that game. I've got rent to pay, and I do the work that I do, but I don't do any work that is not joyful to me. So that is clear to me. But I had to go through a process of entering the void where I did not know. I did not know what it was that I needed to do next. I had to turn off that intellectual mind that had me, well, I got to plan this, and I've got to get a marketing person, and I've got to do an ad, and I've got to promote this, and I got to promote that. Now, when I promote something, it's just because it's part of my joy. I want to get this information out. So follow the desire to do nothing, or to only do what you enjoy, and then watch the mind, because that's where you are going to hear, or you're being lazy, or you're not being responsible. All of those are egoic thoughts that you need to begin to choose. Well, if I am one with God and I desire to have more fun doing this, then I'm entitled to the miracle. All these lessons come together. God, what would you have me do that takes care of my worldly needs while I am having fun just staying here in my house, in oneness, in relationship with this piece of furniture that is in this now moment where I am accessing the greatest joy. So when we get comfortable with that being our reality, the old way falls away. But we have to have a lot of courage to sit through the ego telling us, but how are you going to pay the rent? How are you going to pay the rent? How are you going to pay the rent? And now all of a sudden the 31st is here, or the 1st is here, the 2nd is here, and you sit in trusting. And one of the biggest tricks that the ego pulls is in that fear, we cannot hear all the ways that are attempting to come to us to help us with the abundance, to help us find another way, because the mind is trained this way. And God is saying, I want you to go this way. I want you to operate going in ascension. And the ego is, oh no, I got to go into the world, that world of money and whatever. I've got to go get a job. I've got to go drive Uber. I got to do whatever I got to do. Not that any of those things are not inspired by any means. Many people are inspired to do that. Somebody has to, because we have holy brothers and sisters at every level inside of this illusion of separation. But we have got to be willing to spend time listening to God for inspiration that is not of this world. And the ego doesn't like anything that is not of this world, unless, of course, it makes it feel special. But what we're experiencing and listening to God has no specialness with it, but it is so absolutely, utterly fulfilling that once you follow that path a couple of times and you feel the joy that you access in that moment, you will know that the best thing to do is to trust and follow that. And the energies that we're feeling right now are designed to accelerate those who are going down and those who are going up. Those who are going to descend into deeper separation, into greater fear, into giving up their autonomy, their sovereignty, it's accelerating. They're going to do that faster. Those who are ascending to finding freedom, it's happening a lot faster. We get to decide, when we are aware, which direction we are moving in. And of course, we're here, we know what direction we're all going to go, but the process is the same. Give yourself permission to watch the mind and know that anything that instills fear, guilt, shame, judgment, any kind of anxiety, terror, depression, that is all pure ego. Stop believing that thought. That's the power that we have. And when we use our free will to not listen to the trained, programmed thinking, we create the space for something that's never been. We don't really know that very well, because we were 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 years old the last time that we connected with that total, complete trust that everything was taken care of, because it was. And that feeling of I am in the mind of the creative source and I'm fully taken care of, we have to really, really believe that before we can access the ability to co-create with God, because that's really that's what God gave us, is the ability to create. We just created insanity. We now need to train ourselves into creating with joy, with humbleness, and with honesty. Thank you so much for that question. That was wonderful. And that comment. So are you complete, Jody? And then we'll go to Kat.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I loved what you said. Thank you so much. Thanks for having this amazing space to be not of this world and all the insanity.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a respite for sure. I enjoy it too. Thank you so much. Yes, Miss Kat.
I'll try to make this short and sweet, but I had an opportunity this morning to see an attachment that was, and I never thought about it as being so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and it's an attachment to driving, to being able to get in my car and go, because it looks like I'm gonna have to have foot surgery. I'm gonna be 3 weeks, whatever. I mean, a boot and all that. And I'm like, that was this morning at the doctor, and I'm like, rather than just get upset about that, which I was about to do, I thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me. I'm a very giving person. It's an opportunity for me to receive, that I can allow that to happen, and that I can see just maybe it's also an opportunity for me to just have more quiet and peace. So then rather than dreading it and like, oh my God. But I saw I'm attached to driving. I mean, such a simple thing, but I want to be able to drive.
Yeah. We're attached to so many things that seem simple, but it's all part of the conditioning that we received. And there's a status with a car and driving and independence. There's also, I don't want to be a burden on anybody else. There's so many things attached to it that we get to look at it. And yes, and eventually it leads us to, I'm going to be just fine. I'm going to let everybody else take care of me. So we'll have to connect, and you'll have to let me know when you're there, and I'll bring you lunch one day. I'll come hang out with you. How awesome. So wonderful. Thank you so much for these shares. I mean, it's so powerful when we discover we have to live the Course in Miracles. It can only do so much at the level of the head. We have to embody it, bring it into our heart, and live it out. Give to others what we are receiving from these teachings. So this is just wonderful. So lesson 124. Let me remember I am one with God. And last week we got through the end of paragraph 6, and then I read the very first sentence of paragraph 7. So we're going to begin right there. Paragraph 7, we join in this awareness as we say that we are one with God. The awareness that we're joining in is the recognition that not only are we one with God, it is how we were created to be. It is the design that is the most perfect one, is for us to remember our oneness with God. And when we remember our oneness with God, we begin to reactivate the truth of who we are. And as we reactivate the truth of who we are, we become more of that loving presence in the world. And that's why we need to be the change we want to see in the world. We want a world that is more loving. We have to be loving. We want a world that is more creative, that's not continuing to repeat the old crap that doesn't work. That's insanity. So we've got to open up the portal to creativity. God, what would you have me do? Which goes to your question, Jody. We need to say, I need something new because I already know the old stuff and I'm tired of the old ways. So we open up that portal to receiving. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. We are studying right now lesson 124 in the workbook of A Course in Miracles. So good to see your beautiful face there. We've missed you. It's been a while.
I know it has been.
Yes. So in paragraph number 7 in lesson 124. All right.
Okay.
Second sentence. For in these words, we say as well, and this is going back to the awareness of our recognition, one with God. In these words, we say as well that we are saved and healed, that we can save and heal accordingly. What we need to understand about the word save and heal is that we are saved from the insanity of the world. We are in the mind of God where we are safe and healed. All illness of the body is the result of the density of the thinking that we have had. Granted, some of that thinking is many lifetimes worth. So there's a lot of purging. There's a lot of moving and unpacking and releasing and letting go from our own limited thinking in this lifetime that we may not access maybe until a few more lifetimes when those things come up for healing. But in the meantime, we are here to begin the process of becoming aware that if we are one with God and God is formless, then I must be formless too. And activate that relationship with a part of us that is eternal. What does eternity look like? How would eternity act when it takes on a temporary vessel? And begin to move ourselves out of those attachments to what we have been conditioned to. The body will heal itself. The Course tells us healing is guaranteed when the need for suffering ends. Well, what is suffering? Suffering is a punishment that we inflict upon ourselves because we haven't become what the world tells us to be. All of that, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not lovable, there's something wrong with me, I'm not tall enough, I'm not short enough, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not, large enough, black enough, white enough, whatever, not enoughness. All of that discord activates the density that makes us sick. So we feel like we're not safe. That's why to save ourselves is to protect ourselves from our own freaking mind. And when your mind is clear, your body has to be the reflection of that healing, that clarity. So it happens accordingly. We have accepted and we now would give. So once you accept healing, once you accept that you're safe, You are absolutely safe. You save yourself from the insanity of your ego. You now will give it away. It's an automatic. Let me keep going. For we would keep the gifts our Father gave. Today, we would experience ourselves at one with him so that the world may share our recognition of reality. In our experience, the world is freed. As we deny our separation from our Father, it is healed along with us. Let me give you an example that is happening today. We all know today, for anybody watching this in the future, or maybe they're watching it in the past, who knows, multiple timelines all at once. So today we are experiencing on planet Earth, the date is February the 9th, 2022. What is happening in this world right now is something absolutely beautiful. To the north of our country, the USA, there is a movement in Canada. The truckers are coming together to stand up and speak up for their freedom. They want to end mandates that segregate people, mandates that punish people, people who have a 99.9% survivability of this thing that we call a, virus. These truckers have come together and they're standing peacefully, even though they're being attacked, even though there's misrepresentation about what they're doing. And what are they attempting to do? They want all beings to be free. Where's that coming from? Well, it's coming from a sense of freedom, a natural knowingness that they were created free. And one of the things that I have come to discover, because I've had to see my own spiritualized ego, we think that only spiritual people are the most advanced, but I can tell you that most spiritual people that I know are the most dense, are the most totally, completely locked down into a sense of righteousness that does not give them the ability to feel freedom. So much so that they need other people to behave a certain way for them to be okay. That if you would take, the shot, or you would follow the mandate, then you would really care about the rest of us. That mind that is trained, whether it's a spiritual mind, a Christian mind, a Jewish mind, a political mind, it doesn't matter what it is, that thinks others have to behave a certain way for you to be okay, that mind is not in touch with spirit. The mind that is in touch with spirit is a mind that has experienced freedom. And what happens when you feel that freedom? You want to give it away. And that's what this is saying right here. When you have that recognition, in our experience, the world is freed. So everybody who's out there marching, now these truckers have attracted the community of Indian Sikhs that live in that world. It's attracting, I watched something with these Chinese people who escaped communism in China, went to Canada, and they're saying, oh, please don't bring communism here, which is what the dictator there wants to do. And I call him a dictator because that's what he's doing. He's dictating what people should do, even though it's supposed to be a free country. Well, the world is going to be freed by people who stand for, not only do I want my freedom, but I want yours as well. When somebody stands for the freedom of others, they are being moved by spirit. When somebody stands for, you need to do what I want you to do for me to be okay, because that's how you will be expressing real love and how you'll be expressing how enlightened you are. Those people want to be saved by others. They don't understand that they're already saved from within. And until we know that we are free inside, we are really actually not in connection with God. Only one who feels freedom within and safety, because I'm watching these truckers saying that now Trudeau is calling the police and they're going to be, first they cut off their fuel supply. And what happened? Thousands of people came with cans of gas to bring to these truckers. So these truckers that are being vilified are actually activating a movement in Canada that is causing the goodness of others to come through them, where people are now feeling pulled into the movement, because we can't change the world if we're sitting around in our own little, happy, perfect little homes. And until we really understand that freedom is something that must be shared. You cannot be the only free person on the planet. If everybody else is not free, you're not free. Because unless everybody experiences that the beauty and the power of freedom, there is always going to be the potential that one wants to get into power and control and oppress everybody else. Because a mind that needs to oppress others is a mind that is ruled by the ego, which is totally oppressed, depressed, and so far out of alignment with God that in its depression, because it's been depressed down, it cannot understand why anybody would want freedom. I know what's better for you. You should be constrained. You should follow these mandates unless I don't follow, even though I don't follow them, but you should follow them. Then you'll prove how good you are. That's what this is telling us here. You find your freedom, you will free everybody else. You accept that you are saved only by God. You spare everybody else, which means you save them. You spare them from your judgments. And in that recognition, a mind that feels free to be itself is a mind that activates the healing of the body, that is no longer carrying all that density that keeps us in bondage to the ego. Let me go to the next paragraph, number 8. Peace be to you today. Peace be to you today. Secure your peace by practicing awareness. You are one with your Creator and He is with you. Our peace comes from one place and one place only, knowing that we are eternal. Number one, you have to know you're eternal, so you start letting go of the fear of death. And you need to know you're eternal so that you can understand that you are pure intelligent energy. Because once you know you're eternal and your mind has been cleansed of the density of the thinking of the ego world, now you can go back to your creativity. What would I rather have instead of this? And that's what happened to those beautiful people in Canada who the dictator says, well, we're going to take the fuel away from the truckers, and people's creativity said, oh, let's get cans of gas and we'll take it to them. So where there's a will, there's a way, but the mind has to be clear so that path happens. The people who are afraid of the dictator, those people will not take gas because they're afraid that they're going to end up getting in trouble and going to jail. And why are they afraid of going to jail? Because they're in jail in their own minds. To them, jail is a reality that they live inside of mentally. They don't want to experience it externally, which is a trap of the ego, but they're mentally in jail when they're in fear. Those who have freedom, they don't care what the dictator says. They go out and do what feels right and what feels inspired to do. Sentence number 3 says, and Natalia, thank you for joining us. We're on lesson 124, paragraph number 8. Sentence number 3 says, so sometime today, this is a lesson, this has a practice with it. Sometime today, whenever it seems best, devote a half hour to the thought that you are one with God. Play with that. Play with that. And when you start doing that in the beginning, your mind's going to go crazy. Ego mind's not going to like that. What? I'm one with God. It's either going to say, yeah, I'm one with God. I'm special. And it gets arrogant, or it's going to be ignorant. Oh no, I can't possibly be one with God. Not me. I'm a sinner. I'm not good enough. I'm blah, 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 whatever the ego is going to want to tell you. So spend half an hour contemplating, I am one with God, and see all the stuff that comes out of your mind. So this is our first attempt at an extended period for which we give no rules nor special words to guide your meditation. We will trust God's voice to speak as He sees fit or she sees fit. They only use the word He because this was written to appeal to the Christian mind who sees God as the Father. But it's very clear. Father, Mother, God are one. Source, Spirit, Buddha, Bambi, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. It knows what it is and wants us to connect with it, to access it, but it doesn't care what we call it. All right, so we will trust God's voice to speak as He sees fit today, certain He, she will not fail. Abide with Him this half an hour. He will do the rest. It was very difficult for me in the beginning to sit with, oh yeah, God is going to talk to me. Oh yeah, I'm going to get direct guidance. I was petrified of God talking directly to me because I had all these old sinner Catholic crap in my mind. I was petrified of the idea of hearing from God. And then I had this thought, well, why would God want to talk to me? Look, I'm not good enough. I'm not done this. God's going to talk to, this saint, that person, that special person. So I had to see all of the thoughts and beliefs that kept me from accessing God in me. So just try it and you will see that what will come into your awareness, because we need to become aware that we are one with God. And in saying that, we then become aware of all the thoughts that tell us that we're not. And we want to take an inventory of that thinking, because that thinking, as Kat did, oh, I can't drive. Oh, let's be aware. What are the thoughts? What's coming up? And that is part of this process, no different than for you, Jody. Your heart desires to just do the thing that you enjoy, but then the ego starts telling you, oh, but what about this, that, or the other? We need to say, I don't care about the this, that, or the other. We need to get to the place that we begin to expect God to be our personal concierge. I want to have this. I want to have that experience. God, I know I'm entitled to the miracle. And we train our mind into an expectancy. But here's the thing. When we expect God to give us stuff, God's not about giving us stuff, because God doesn't believe in stuff. God believes in experience. God is non-physical. God is pure consciousness. It is not interested in the accumulation of stuff when it just wants the experience. So we've got to get really clear to want experiences that are pure, that are for the greater good of all, that do not hurt anybody else whatsoever, that are just for the pure enjoyment in this now moment, not for the inflation of the ego. And when we get to the place that we have that clear expectation, okay, God, I'm entitled to the miracles because I'm creating my reality, and we come from a pure, innocent place within, God will do the rest. The people, the components, the situations begin to show themselves because they are attracted to the same experience. You want to have an experience of an opportunity to redecorate your place, then all of a sudden you're going to meet with a person that has the right furniture, and it will be seamless. We're used to working hard to make things happen. We're moving to fun and ease. In the fifth dimension, it is about fun and ease because it's about the experience. You don't have to work to get it. It's going to be an instant manifestation. While we get to that, we need to clean out the mind. We need to unpack the stuff that no longer serves us. We need to declutter ourselves from the old thought systems and begin to allow ourselves to believe that we really are non-physical beings creating an experience. And if you created this experience, what do you want to experience in it? Then let your mind, with a clarity, God, if I am one with you and you're the creator of everything, and you created the universe, and if you created the multiverse, clearly you can create me having $100 or $1,000 or a meal. Clearly you must do that. But that person that's going to invite you to dinner when you don't have the money to go out to dinner yourself, that person needs a clear channel to get to you. Because if you put out the call, God, I would love to have a meal because I don't have the funds to buy, and that person wants to call you and you see their name on the phone and the ego tells you, oh, you haven't talked to them in a long time, don't answer the phone. Well, you just canceled it out. Or, you decide, oh, I'm not dressed enough. I don't look good. You're going to miss out on the food. Did you want the experience of a full belly, or did you want the experience of somebody looking at you and you're looking perfect? That is why we conflict ourselves so much and send these messages that are mixed signals, and we can't quite match up with the desires that our heart has, because we say we want one thing and then we talk about why we can't do it. Or we block the receiving of it because we are too busy saying, well, God's going to provide it to me. You all know the joke, the person where the flood is happening and the person is looking out the window, oh my God, God save me. And a person comes on a boat and says, jump on the boat with me. And the person in the house says, oh, no, I don't need a boat. God's going to save me. And they go up to the next story and God sends somebody with a ladder to come up there and help them. And they said, come with me. No, 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 don't worry. God's going to save me. And then the waters rise and they go up to the top of the house, and a helicopter comes to try and help them. And the person says, no, 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 God's going to save me. And then all of a sudden the waters rise and the person drowns and goes to the, in front of the pearly gates. And they're there. God, why didn't you save me? And God says, well, I sent you a boat. I sent you a ladder. I sent you a helicopter. How else are we going to get help if not through one another? But our ego judges each other and judges us in such a way that we cannot hear the ways that God is attempting to take care of us. He will do the rest. But we have to be willing to accept that we deserve to have it, and however it shows up, so that we can see the attachments to how things should be, and we can get into the flow, because in the flow, there's no how it should be. In the flow is you are willing to flow, to move, to be taken here, to be taken there, and you trust it. That's why this is a journey of cultivating trust. Paragraph 9. Your benefit will not be less if you believe that nothing happens when you enter into the 30 minutes of connecting with I am one with God. You may not be ready to accept the gain today, yet sometime, somewhere, it will come to you, nor will you fail to recognize it when it dawns with certainty upon your mind. This half an hour will be framed in gold, with every minute like a diamond set around the mirror that this exercise will offer you. And you will see Christ's face upon it in reflection of your own. So that's a beautiful visual. I sit down, I am one with God. It's like having a mirror in front of me, and the reflection of me in the mirror, all of these jewels around it is my awareness of the truth, my awareness of the goodness of who I am. I am absolutely clear of my perfection, and that's what all those beautiful jewels are. When I look in the mirror and my time with God and I see me, I'm seeing my Christ itself, when it is absolutely, completely honest and humble. Let me go to paragraph 10. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, you will see your transfiguration in the glass this holy half an hour will hold out to you to look upon yourself. Because when we're saying I am one with God, God and I are one. Look in the mirror. And as a matter of fact, try it. Spend 30 minutes saying, I am one with God. And look at God in the mirror, looking back at you. And once you accept that you are it, that's what the Christ is about. When Jesus said, I and the Father are one, he became Jesus the Christ. That Christ is not what he is. He was a Jewish person named Jeshua. He saw the truth of who he was, felt it in his beingness, and that is what the Christ is all about. So we've got to look upon ourselves and knowing that we are God. But again, humbleness and honesty. When you are ready, you will find it there within your mind and waiting to be found. Where is the truth of who we are in our mind, waiting to be accepted? Because it's just a thought away. It's a thought that children had that they didn't think. It was a knowing. Then we got trained to think that we're not what we are, and our mind got cluttered and filled with nonsense. So we got to declutter the mind like we're decluttering the house. And when we let go of the beliefs that are not true, we're going to have to think the new ones to create new neurological pathways. And when we have thought the new ones long enough that we don't no longer doubt it, we don't think them, we just be them. We just be the living Christ. That's it. We are the second coming of the Christ, because each and every one of us that accepts that I and the Father are one activates the Christ consciousness. What's the Christ consciousness? Is the knowing that I am the light, I am the love, I am the way. And when you live that way, you illuminate the path for everybody else. You free everybody from your judgment. Everybody can see your joy to the point that, oh, things are falling apart. Well, then you realize, because you are reasoning with God, you see the reason why things are falling apart. They have to, because they were man-made. And anything that is man-made and seeks to enslave others is not of God. It has to break down. The government system is a man-made institution. The medical system, man-made institution. Education system, man-made institution. These are systems, all equally designed to rein in the people into a very small sense of self, and then create an enslavement system that has them following what they were trained when they were little. Got to work hard for my money, and who gets the money? We are operating in a pyramid scheme. So we've got to break out of this incredible game that we've been participating on. And the only way to remember to get out of there is to remember that you're God, and in your creative power, you put yourself there. So the same awareness that had you descend into enslavement is the exact same awareness reversed that allows you to ascend out of that enslavement and into freedom. So it goes on to say, so it's all in your mind. It's all in the mind. That's where you're going to find it. Sentence number 3, paragraph 10. You will remember then the thought to which you gave this half an hour, thankfully aware no time was ever better spent. There is no way to spend better time than acknowledging that we are one with the Father, Mother, God. We are it. If we're it, how would we use our power? And it is not of this world. It will not be to create anything that you've had in this world. It is going to be to create the new. Well, how's the new going to come into the world except by those who are thinking new thoughts? Insanity is thinking the same old thoughts, expecting a different result. We all know that. So now let's stop thinking with the same old thoughts, open our minds and our heart. God, what would you have me do? Activate my imagination like it was when I was a little kid, so that I can flow. I flow. Now I understand the reason why everything is breaking down, because it doesn't have you in it. It was made without your love. It was made, thank you, Jody. It was made without your love, God. It was made with jealousy. It was made with greed. It was made with misinformation. Now I want to create with joy and with right information. Paragraph 11. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, you will look into the glass, into the mirror, and understand the sinless light you see belongs to you. The loveliness you look on is your own. Count this half hour as your gift to God, in certainty that his return will be a sense of love you cannot understand, a joy too deep for you to comprehend, a sight too holy for the body's eyes to see. And yet you can be sure someday, perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, you will understand and comprehend and see. Then paragraph number 12, add further jewels to the golden frame that holds the mirror offered you today by hourly repeating to yourself, let me remember I am one with God, at one with all my brothers and myself in everlasting holiness and peace. We are being guided through these teachings to open our eyes if we want to see the truth, to open our ears if we want to hear the truth, to recognize that we are all one with each other. And that is what we must participate in, an ongoing dialogue that trains our mind to remember the truth, to do the things that we were told that you weren't supposed to do. How dare you think you are one with God? Well, those who told us, how dare you think you are one with God, wanted to be the ones that we looked up to and thought they were our gods, all to disempower us. Well, the gig is up. The game is done. We are being called to remember the truth of who we are, because when we remember the truth of who we are, we remember everybody's truth. And then we begin to free everybody from our judgments. And that's when we begin to connect, we truly connect with them in a joyful way. Those truckers that are not afraid of the dictator, that then had their people that they don't even know bring them gasoline, bring it to them joyfully. I watched the video. These people were dancing down the street, bringing their cans of gasoline, because those people who are helping the truckers who are being punished for speaking up for what most people are afraid to say, inspired in those who were too afraid to go out there and be with the truckers to begin with, found the inspiration to go and bring them the gasoline. And whether you drove your truck or you came out with a can of gasoline, or you came because you just wanted to be in the presence of such incredible benevolence, or you were there because you brought food, or you were there because you live there and you can't leave the area because, you know, it's filled with trucks. There is a come into unity happening. There is a community that is growing, that is building, that is activating, because here's the power of creation. That energy is getting spread across the world, around the world, in countries, in cities, in towns around the world. There is a movement to stand up for freedom. These truckers are expressing a clarity of the importance of their role in humanity. In the world that the ego made, those truckers are crucial because they move stuff from one place to another. And when they decided, you know what, I'm going to own my worth. You can't get your food if it's not through me. You can't get your medicines at the drugstore if it's not through me. I matter. I am an important piece of this entire puzzle. I'm going to stand up and use my voice and say, I stand for freedom. And while I'm at it, I'm going to stand for your freedom too. That is not only courage, but it is a willingness to accept the role that they're here to play. And the role that they're here to play is part of the reason God is activating inside of us this knowingness that we matter. And as we see that there is a reason for everything, those who are attempting to oppress people are actually the most scared on the planet. And when we see that their attempt to oppress us is the very pressure that is placed on a piece of coal to turn it into a diamond. It's the very irritation of the grain of sand on the oyster that turns it into a pearl. We are being oppressed, pressed into our brilliance if we choose to shine it. But we've got to get really clear that that light that's going to come out of us is not our light, it's God's light that then we bring to the world. We are messengers of truth. And when we say we and the Father, Mother, God are one, it's because we're bringing the same one message. Each and every one of us is like a ray of light to that which is the sun, which is the all that isness. We need to get really clear that we matter. We need to get really comfortable knowing that we can't do it the same old ways that we've been doing it. We need to sit in silence and wait. God, what would you have me do? And then expect to receive the answer. When you receive the answer, then do that. But so many of us, me included, heard the answers and I was too afraid to do them. What would people think? Oh, I can't do it. I don't have the money to do that. I didn't trust. It was just showing me that I didn't trust. And when you begin to get in the flow of trusting, the appropriate components, they show up. I can't remember who said it, maybe Thoreau, maybe it was Emerson, but one of them, I think it might have been Thoreau, said something beautiful, and I'm going to paraphrase, but that when we move in concert with God's inspiration, the world will conspire with us. Maybe it wasn't even one of them, it might have been somebody else. But the world will conspire to support our movement because God needs us to be flowing so it can send us to where it needs us to go. It's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I was listening to a random artist. I love to listen to worship songs. I love listening to the modern, the newer songs that people are writing, acknowledging our love of God. Some of them still have some old ideas that are not mine, you know, like I'm a sinner and things like that, but I don't judge that stuff anymore. I feel the essence of the songs or the music in it. And I was listening to this one musician and he shared a story of a woman who had gone on a missionary trip her senior year in high school. And she went to a very, very poor place. And in that very poor place, she was doing what she was doing and then she was going to come back and go to college. And when she got there, she saw incredibly inhumane conditions that so many of these children were living in, that she said, I've got to stay here and do something about it. And when she called her father said, you will absolutely do no such thing. I sent you there on your mission trip. You better get over here and get to college and follow your path. But what he didn't say that she heard that I set up for you. And she was listening to the voice for God who said, no, you're going to stay here. These children need somebody who will care about them and create the right conditions. So she put it out there, started asking people to help and send money. And where she was in a third world country, $25 went a long way. And people started sending her money. And now she runs an incredibly beautiful school for these children. A lot of them actually live there because they're orphans. So it's not just an orphanage, it's also a community. And she said, when I came here, the thought of me going to college and doing something in the US it disappeared. I knew I had to stay here, even if I went against my father's wishes, even if my mom was not happy about that. I had to do what was in my heart. That is flowing. She was flowing with what God is asking her to do. We are going to be moved to the right places where we're supposed to be, but we need to let ourselves be humbled. We need to be okay not knowing what we don't know and begin to reactivate our expectation that God's will for us is better than ours, and she will do the rest. We are entitled to these miracles. We just need to be willing to flow with them. And they are going to not look like anything the ego does. It can't be, because what the ego did was block God. So it can't be that way. But what is coming, these new financial markets, these new currencies, these gifting communities, these doctors who are coming together, giving away their treatments or doing it via telemedicine, these teachers who are quitting the education system and are coming together with parents and working together as a community, that's the new earth being created. That is the new earth that is being activated and is arising within this world. It's arising to show us the new word, the new way. And the new way is absolutely, hey, Dondra, thanks for joining us. The new way is not of the world. And this is why we need to be in the world, but not of it. We are being invited through that lesson. Remember that I am one with God. And let ourselves spend 30 minutes with that lesson as often as possible, trusting that you will hear the guidance. So let's hear any nuggets that anybody got from this conversation. I would love to hear that from you. Dondra, you're going to want to hear the whole thing because it was absolutely beautiful. So who got some nuggets? Please unmute yourself. Rebecca, you haven't been here in a little bit. Did you pick up a nugget today? So whoever can unmute themselves, please.
Laina, it's Angela. I got a ton out of today. I'm so glad I was tuned in. Just really so grateful. Just listening to you talk about the move that you're in the process of, and looking at things and and how you associated memories with things, and how the memories are really the piece that has the value that you'll always carry with you. That was just very resonant for me today. So thank you.
So grateful. So grateful. That's what came out of my mouth, because clearly it was meant to be a gift for you. I trust that whatever comes out of my mouth is in flow, because I just have got myself to be that kind of a vessel that can share whatever I'm being inspired to share without having to plan it and figure it out. What should I do that's going to give me the highest ratings? Thank you, sister. Thank you, sister, for being here. Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I love this idea of taking that 30 minutes a day, or when you can, maybe twice, whatever you can, and just going in, just communicating with God, communicating with yourself, and have that interchange. I'm going to try it with the mirror. I'm going to start there, and maybe where I always do. I don't really know, because we've done exercises before in court, looking in the mirror and talking to ourselves, but this one is from this one is resonating with me, and we'll see. So I love that, and I think that could create quite a breakthrough into just more and more settling into the knowingness of who I am. I love that. One thing you said also in here that I wrote down, and I'm like Andrea, not Andrea, Angela. I wrote down so much stuff. But one of the things is when you said you're mentally in jail, when you're in fear. So, and then that God believes in experiences, not stuff. So that was, I love that. It's just another way to say it, but you're mentally in jail when you're in fear. So that's a really nugget for me.
Oh, good. Yeah, because when we're in fear, the possibilities become very limited. What you want, what will help you feel good is very, very limited. And that's how we get controlled, is that when we're in fear, we want very little. We don't want the whole menu. We don't want the whole buffet. We only want this. And that's how we become easy targets for the controllers. And that's yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, God only wants experiences. God is non-physical. It is absolutely non-physical, and it wants the experience with the physical stuff, but it doesn't want attachment, because it wants to flow on to the next one. It wants to just flow. And when we let it flow, it's going to be different. Things are going to be different. You might stay in the same house forever. You might stay with the same partner forever. You might stay in the same career, but you will be free in that space. You will know that you are free in that space. For some other people, it may be bouncing around from this one to that one to that one. God knows I've been bouncing around through lots of different homes, but it was just part of the journey of trusting for me. I just had to trust and let myself detach from having to own something. And it, my goodness, has been so liberating. I can live anywhere. I can literally live in a tent under a bridge, and I would be okay, because I know my peace goes with me. And that there's no price. There's no price for that level of freedom. There's just none. And I just wish everybody could feel that. But that only comes when we are willing to trust that we need nothing. We need nothing except for a relationship with what we are, the creators of our own reality. And once you know that that is your superpower, and you're creating all of it through your perception of it, then we have total freedom. And with that much freedom, why would you want to bind yourself to stuff? It's such a crazy paradox, such a crazy paradox. You free yourself from stuff, and then in that freedom, you don't want stuff. But when you have stuff, you think you're free because you have so much stuff, and and it's actually bondage. Absolutely fascinating. I am so grateful to you guys for being on these conversations, because I have come to realize that these Wednesday gatherings is just, it touches me. Each one touches me, because I don't know what's going to come through me. It's just beautiful. It's just such a gift. And I think today is number 50 of these calls. So it's super, super exciting that we've been doing this for a year now, because I started them in February of last year. And absolutely amazing, amazing that most of you have been here for almost a year with me, and hopefully we'll keep going. So if you find this inspiring, share it with others and let them know that there's a place where they can come to know the truth of who they are. And it's free. It's free. So if there's anybody who wants to say anything, unmute yourself. If not, let's all unmute ourselves and say, Tom, you're going to share something. I see you unmuted yourself.
Yes. Hey, Laina, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm a little nervous sharing this kind of information about myself for some reason, but I feel moved to. You were talking about that wonderment when you're a little kid, 4 or 5 years old. And I have this distinct memory of just being absolutely fascinated with watching anything that flew. Birds, bugs, didn't matter. Paper airplanes, whatever. As you know, later in life, that turned into a stupid amount of education on aerospace engineering, computer information technology subsystems, as in relation to aviation. And, I joined the military, spent an extensive amount of time in the special operations community, building this identity of a highly trained individual, especially when it came to flying. And then, I'm questioning when my spiritual awakening actually started now, because back then, all of a sudden, I could not be part of that community anymore. The missions we were going on, the things we were doing was just crazy, and I couldn't stand it. So I went to the opposite side of that spectrum, which was medevac, a Black Hawk medevac, and we go to Iraq. We lost 3 aircraft, too many people in it. But the most important thing is I was in an explosion, 9 hours of brain surgery, and all of this knowledge, this understanding of who I was, everything I'd so carefully crafted around me to make me this aviation expert, so to speak, was removed. After this surgery, suddenly I found myself with like a 3rd or 4th grade understanding of math, and it crushed me. I mean, I bemoaned that loss for so long, so I started collecting shit. I've got my $25,000 in motorcycle, my Mustang, my shit, and then a tornado came along, an F4 tornado came along, and ruined it. It took away all this stuff. So I bemoaned that. And, as life went on, all of a sudden I find myself drinking all the time. It came to the point to where at first I thought it was God punishing me. But now, of course, I know it was God saying, you are creating your own hell. You have created your exact circumstances. And if you just open your mind, then amazing things can come through. I can work through you, with you. So that started 3 years ago. And as you're wrapping this up, I'm sitting in my kitchen and I'm looking out the window, and I am absolutely fascinated with these birds that are flying around my backyard. And I'm like, all of this stuff that I used to think I lost so much. But the reality is I have gained this tremendous oneness with God throughout the day. And when you're sitting there saying, the lesson is, practice for 30 minutes of I am one with God, God is within me. I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing that all day. I've been in just this amazing place all day so far today of just thinking exactly that. Look, I just have these riches in my life today because of all the shit I lost, this identity, this financial possibility. I mean, all this stuff, it's so cliche. It just doesn't matter, all the stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't, it's just, it's just amazing. If you just trust that whatever's taken away from you is actually your building blocks.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you're going to have with the creator. It really is.
Exactly. Because all that is being stripped away is what does not belong, what blocks, what covers, what distracts from what truly matters. So thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, if we could find a blessing in the surgery, if we could find a blessing in the forgetting, if we could find the blessing in what the tornado took, it really truly is. We have been layered with stuff, with thoughts, with beliefs. They have to be taken apart because it's peeling those layers, and we got to remove them so that we can get comfortable with being left just me and God. That's it. And when we can be that comfortable that it is just I and the Father, and that's all there is, that's the freest person in the whole world. That's the absolute freest being on the planet. But we can't get to that place without intervention of some sort. And right now, the world is in a massive, massive intervention. And this whole COVID story was nothing more than a wonderful thing the ego was using. And at the same time, God is using it. And if we get upset about what the ego did, we miss out on that it was helping us see more clearly what has been blocking God all along. And when we see how distracted we have been with the frenzy that the ego is attempting to create, we then can begin to little by little move ourselves out of the frenzy and into the freedom, out of the fear and control and into the co-creation of something new that is all about collaboration and cooperation and co-creation. Because if we are not clear that anybody who attempts to tell you what to do is egoic, then we cannot have the freedom that is necessary for us to say, God, what would you have me do? If you need somebody telling you what to do, you're not ready for, I don't know what to do, God, tell me. And between here and there could be lifetimes. But in this world today, many like you, Tom, like me, like all of those here that I know, something has to get taken away to begin the snowball rolling, to get us to really accelerate our awakening. So give thanks for anything that gets taken away. It's a blessing. Thank you for that, Tom. That was just so beautiful. What a perfect place to complete our conversation. So I will see you here next week, next Wednesday. Invite a friend, share this on your social media, wherever. I will see you Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as always, right here, same channel. And you can find it if anybody's watching this on my YouTube. You can find this at lainaorlando.com. You can register there. Lots of different ways to register. Thank you all so much for being here. Unmute yourselves and say goodbye to each other.
Thank you so much, Laina. And I wanted to say thank you to Tom for sharing that the story. It was the energy was amazing. I was listening it like a piece of music or poetry. It's just it's incredible experience. So thank you, Tom.
I'll second that, Tom. That brought me to tears. This Angela was beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing it.
Yeah,
Dondra, it was a beautiful share.
wonderful. Yes.
Same way. This is Kat.
Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. I'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Laina.
Thank you, Laina.
Bye-bye.
Have a spectacular day, everyone.
You
Peace.
too, Yuri. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.